So this video is going to walk you through the build of this arts and crafts style dresser. And I say arts and crafts, and some people are going to look at it and say, well, that's not arts and craft. It's like quarter sawn oak or mahogany, which is true. Most arts and crafts stuff is done in woods like quarter sawn oak. That's the big one. Mahogany, cherry, but very rarely made. Actually, some people didn't know now, but no. Highly figured maple was used. It was uncommon, but not unheard of. Robert Stickley, in particular, was that his first name? Robert Stickley, famous arts and crafts guy. He was fond of using highly figured maple, and this is highly figured. This is stunningly beautiful stuff. So another factor of arts and craft, very rectilinear design. A very simple design, minimalistic ornamentation. I've got these little accents here and the accent on walnut. So this, by the way, this is tiger maple, a veneer of spalted maple, and an accent in walnut. Decorative veneers were uncommon, but not unheard of. Again, Stickley was fond of using decorative veneers. I say decorative as opposed to structural veneers. A structural veneer being like a panel, side panel or something made in veneer, but of the same wood, just to achieve dimensional stability, which would be an engineering factor. Maybe solid wood would cause problems in a design. So that was common, done all the time. But veneers for visual effect was less common, but not unheard of. Not stained, also an arts and craft attribute. Custom hardware, custom pulls, also a arts and craft thing. I mean, they wouldn't deign to use a factory-made pull. I mean, they just wouldn't go there. They didn't stain because they wanted the beauty of the wood to show through. Basically, the whole underlying philosophy between arts and crafts style was it was a reaction to the Industrial Revolution. Arts and craft as a movement ran from about 1880 to 1920, and in furniture it was a reaction to the glut of mass-produced crap coming out of factories. So it was about simple, honest designs made extremely well, high quality joinery, high quality construction, simple but beautiful materials, letting the beauty of the material show through by not staining it, letting its natural. So that was the overall philosophy behind arts and crafts. And you could look up guidelines and stuff and everything, but it falls under one of those things that you know it when you see it. All right, this is arts and craft. So we're going to go through the build process. And let's get started. All right, so here are some of the pieces for this piece I'm building. I'm sparing you the milling of the lumber. Okay, I'm getting it all milled off camera. But so this is tiger maple. The primary wood for this is all tiger maple, and I got it from a place called Hearn Hardwoods in southeastern Pennsylvania. They're about an hour and a half from me. I live outside of Washington, D.C. If you're within range, they're worth a visit. They have really stunning collection of wood, highly diverse selection of wood, all really, really high quality. So these are the legs. They will eventually be trimmed down at the top here to an inch. These are 2.5 inches wide. They'll be trimmed down to 1.5 inches wide until this point here, and then it'll flare out in a curved taper. I haven't done that yet, and I won't do it till I'm really ready to glue these up, because I want to leave them in the rectilinear form while I do all the joinery. Got to cut all the mortises and tendons, but I don't do mortise and tendons. I'll tell you right now. I've stopped doing hand cut mortise and tendons. I use a festool domino, and I don't know if people might gripe about that. I see the domino gets a lot of hate on the internet, and I'm not sure why. I think a lot of the arguments against it are bogus. Although sometimes the arguments are, it's awfully expensive, and that's a fair criticism. It's awfully expensive. So if you don't want to spend that much, yeah, of course. And if you like cutting mortise, fine. I do this because I enjoy it. So I do things I enjoy. I don't like cutting mortise and tenons, either with machines or hand. I just don't enjoy it, so I don't do it. I use the domino. But I'm not averse to hand cut joinery. I mean, you can see I love cutting dovetails by hand, and you'll see that. I will do that on this piece. So I just do what I enjoy. I don't enjoy mortise and tenons. So, domino. I filled in some voids with epoxy. These aren't visible. This is going to be a rear leg, and this will be the back side. The epoxy's on the back side, so no one's going to see it. This piece is going to have an unfinished back side. This is also back side of a piece. I think this is, yeah, that's a rear leg. So, also a rear leg. I selected the front legs are the higher quality. It's got some dark spots in it. This was one face. This was an 8/4 board that was one face rather than two face. So I had to be careful how I picked it. But some of this dark wood that's on this side here will be cut away when I trim the piece down. So very little will appear, and a lot of it will be obscured by the internal casework. So I was very careful how I selected this stuff. I've cut the lintels for it. They're ready to go. The top and bottom lintels. There's also in this piece, it's got this internal post-in lintel that's just, you know, an homage to the arts and crafts style, right? They did a lot of that kind of thing. So it serves no structural purpose. It's just decorative. And I'll cut those after this is dry fit together because, you know, as anyone knows, does this regularly knows, blueprints are not, they're guides. They're not gospel, all right? You do your final fit directly off the piece. So when these are in place and dry fit on the legs, I will fit the post directly to the piece there. So I know it's a perfect fit. And the same thing for the two lintels on either side of the center of the panel. Besides her and hardwoods, if you're interested in really, you know, recommendations on quality places to go, I said that they're worth a visit. Also worth a visit if you're in this area is Exotic Lumber in Annapolis, which has just as impressive, if not even maybe even more impressive, diversity of selection than Hearn does. Another place I highly recommend is a place in Virginia called C.P. Johnson Lumber. I always get my cherry and walnut from him. He doesn't have anywhere near the diversity the other places have. He has a few exotics, but it's mostly domestic woods, and he specializes in tiger maple, cherry, and walnut. I've never tried his tiger maple, so I can't speak to that, but I've used a lot of his cherry and a lot of his walnut, and the stuff is stellar. You won't find better anywhere. His walnut's amazing. His walnut is, you're not gonna find anything remotely close to his walnut anywhere. I don't know, maybe Exotic Lumber has walnut is good, but they're gonna probably charge more for it. Walnut's really expensive these days. It's become quite fashionable. Cherry, I've noticed, is not as expensive. It's unfashionable, I guess. You know, prices fluctuate based upon, you know, what people are looking for. His walnut is so good that he has taken to limiting who can buy it, which I find kind of amusing. He found out that a lot of people were buying his walnut. This is super high quality, premium furniture grade lumber, and people were buying it to make cutting boards. And he was so appalled by that he now not just anyone come and buy his walnut. He has to approve you. He has to know who you are. He has to know what you're building, what you're going to use it for. I build furniture. He knows me. I've been buying from him for a long time, so I'm an approved buyer. I was there once looking at some walnut in the back. I was making some dining room chairs, and a guy came back and said, "What are you doing back here?" He was really belligerent. "Oh, I can't be here. I'm not allowed to look at that wood." You know, it's like, no, I'm like Chris is the name of the proprietor. He's like, yeah, he knows I'm here. He knows he allows me to buy this stuff. So the guy backed off. It's pretty funny. Anyways, moving on. So the sides are pretty much finished. So a few things left to do. The last remaining things to do on these are I have to do the panels, of course, and I have to cut the festool slots. that'll hold the drawer shelves. The panels I've made, I've veneered some thin plywood for the panels. I will cut these to fit and set them in place. There will be a rabbet I cut in the back of the frame here to hold them. Now these are shop made panels. That is, I've cut the plies. It's got curly maple on the outside and conventional maple on the inside. The plies are shop cut plies on my bandsaw, so they're pretty good. I mean, they came out really nice. They're very consistent, but inevitably there's some slight variation in the thickness. And so I want the setback to be perfectly flush. So what I'll do is I'll find the thinnest spot on these things, and that will be the depth that I cut the rabbet. So when I have in the end is these things will be in place. They'll be in some places perfectly flush, and other places they'll be a little proud of the back. So once they're glued in place, I will with an orbital sander take down those proud parts to get it perfectly flush across. I mean, that's important for one. It's just, do it right? You do good work. But also, this piece is not going to have any side runners or rails to guide the drawers. This will be the runners. The drawers will run against this on the sides. And so I don't want any edges or corners that could catch the drawer and affect their performance. The drawer shelves, which are basically just frames, with one's facing side being curly maple and the rest being plain maple. I'm not going to build those and try to attach them in one glue up, because I'm a one-man shop, and trying to do those and glue these sides together with the cross pieces, it'd be a glue up from hell trying to do that. So what I'll do is I'll glue up these I'll attach these two pieces with their rails, and then I'll build the drawer shelves in situ on the piece, and I'll go into more detail on that when I get there. I know the where to cut the fest tool. Now, there are two ways you could do that. You could use a divider tool to space out even spaces, but I did this on SketchUp. On SketchUp I can output the precise measurement for each one, and so it's all been sanded until the back's still a little rough, but the rest of it's all been sanded to 600 grit, which I do for Osmo Pollux oil. The sides, these pieces here, these are all, I just sanded them because they came off the thickness planer and they came off the table saw pretty smooth to begin with. All right. So I was able to just I started like with 150. I have a really nice planer. It leaves a really nice surface. But the fronts, these pieces, this was cut with the bandsaw because it's got a slight curve here at the foot. Bandsaws don't leave a very smooth surface, so you could make that smooth with an orbital sander, but that's a lot of work. So I used a hand plane there. Now I've never worked with curly maple before, but I knew hand planing would be challenging with it, which I confirmed. It is quite a challenging wood to hand plane because the figure comes from the fact that the grain undulates through the wood, which makes for a very difficult wood to hand plane. So primarily I attacked by setting the planes to take a super fine shaving, smoothing planes that whisper thin, which takes longer, but avoids great tear out. For the curved parts, I used a compass plane, Stanley 113. I love these things. I do a lot of subtle curves in my work, so I use this a lot. This is the beauty of the idea is you turn this knob and this flexible tin sole can bend. It'll flex. It'll go to a curve that can match the surface you're planing. These are, you can find, they haven't made these I think they stopped making these in the 40s. But there's tons of them available online. You can find them in varying levels of condition on eBay and tool swap places and stuff. Stanley 113. This one is beautifully restored. This is about as nice a condition as you're ever going to find. favorite tool of mine. For the flat parts, I used a jack plane. I used a bevel up jack plane. The beauty of bevel up jack planes are the geometry can be changed by swapping out the blades. So this is a 50-degree angle blade. It's very high angle. High angle means it's harder to push, but it's less prone to tear out. And you know, these Veritas planes, you can adjust the throat. You're swapping out different blades, so it better give you a way to adjust the throat. But you adjust the throat so that you end up with a really, really thin throat. That and the setting it to take, I mean, jack planes often you can set to be pretty aggressive, but you can also set them to be super fine, like a smoothing plane, and that worked. Got a nice, good planing performance out of it, and ended up with a nice, smooth surface. So the sides are complete and ready to be glued up to the cross members into a saw to basically finish the basic carcass of the piece of furniture. I have cut the size. I've finished all the side. These are the side pieces for the drawer shelves. The actual cross pieces I will cut, I'll fabricate and fit into place after the carcass is assembled. It's just much easier that way. Trying to do it all in one glue up, as I said before, would have been a nightmare. They're all lap joints. As you can see here, they're on the surface. And the lap joints for the remaining, the front piece hasn't even been made yet. I've made the back ones, but the lap joint's not ready yet. Being lap joints, it'd be easy to assemble. I'll just drop them into place. All right. So I've done this. This is a little shy of the face. It's about 1/8 of an inch shy of the face of the piece, because the cross piece will be just conventional maple, and then I'll do a thin strip of tiger maple that I'll glue on the facade as a front. The back pieces will be screwed into the struts of the back of the carcass. You don't even really need, that's the only purpose for the back pieces. You don't even need them for the drawers. The drawers only need the side things. I need the front ones to hold the face for the facade. I need the back ones. I don't really need them other than they're going to be there, and I'm going to drill them right into the struts of the back just to add a little extra rigidity to the piece, a little extra strength. The bottom drawer shelves, there's one more drawer here, and there's no drawer shelf here because it's going to be attached directly to the apron. Here's one right here. It's a dovetail arrangement. So after the carcass is assembled, these will just drop right in. This is the front bottom apron. It's a beautiful piece of tiger maple. Really a really lovely figure. We'll just drop right in there, either end. So I've also done levelers on the feet. These are screws to change the height. I think they're a good idea to put on any piece of furniture, but in my house, they're an absolute necessity. I live in a 70-year-old house. There's not a flat floor anywhere. So you always need these to set to keep the piece from tilting and rocking back and forth. So that's it. I'm gonna glue it all up, and then we'll move on. I'll move on with finishing the drawer shelves. And once that's done, I will start working on the drawers. So the casework is all but completed. All that remains are the back panels, which I'll do last, just to keep access back there. It helps the other things easier to do. I haven't done the tiger maple facing for the shelves and this separator bar here yet. Because I can make the drawers, I'll end up with some spare tiger maple to select appropriate, nicely figured strips from. So there's no rush on that. I've reinforced the drawer shelves. They originally were a relatively narrow strip here on the front and back to accommodate the lap joint, but I thought it was too flimsy. So I reinforced them with some extra wood, both front and back, and I put these cross members here just to increase the rigidity. Because these things not only support the drawers, but I mean they're bolted in place in the back members there and everything. So they add a lot of rigidity to the casework. So what remains? Basically the back, which we'll talk about the top, which will we'll worry about that later. So now the drawers, begin work on the drawers. Now, the drawers are going to be veneered with this nice spalted maple. Let's see, yeah. With a surround of tiger maple and an accent of walnut. The handles I'm going to make for this are going to have a walnut accent in them as well. So I think they should be quite striking. Now, obviously, when I do veneers, I also do a matching back veneer. You need to do veneers on both sides in most cases to balance out the stresses. If you do just one side, the glue and the veneer, they want to make the wood curl. So you balance the stress by doing a back veneer. My veneers I always do on, including these side panels, I always do on high quality plywood. Dimensionally stable, you know, it's a good, very good substrate for a veneer. But in this case, I'm doing something different. Solid core, solid wood substrates. First time for this for me. This isn't like unheard of. Back in the day, before plywood existed, industrial plywood existed, all veneers were done on solid wood cores. But nowadays, almost exclusively, people do it on things like plywood or MDF because of the stability. Why am I doing a solid wood core? For an unusual reason. I've done drawers like this before. I did a cabinet that had a curved facade, including the drawers, and the drawers were curved to match. So I did the drawers. They are walnut and mahogany. They're lamination of walnut, and then shop-made plywood with a mahogany face. I glued it all up in a vacuum press on a form for a matching curve across the whole front. So those drawer fronts were basically dimensionally stable. They were plywood, but the sides of the drawer were solid wood. So you have a mismatch in movement. The drawer face isn't going to move, with no wood movement, but the sides will. So in theory, that would mean the dovetails I make would be stressed and wrecked by the wood movement. But the truth is, drawer is 7 inches high, so 7 inches of wood for wood movement. The truth is, there's not much wood movement. I mean, there's tiny, tiny bit, and it's not enough to wreck the joint. The dovetail holds up just fine. And I know this brand, this cabinet's been up in our house for years now, and it's held up just fine. So I could do the same here. I could use a plywood core and to have a dimensionally stable front face, and the sides would be solid wood. I could use plywood for the side and make it all dimensionally stable, but I don't want to do plywood sides. It looks chintzy in my opinion. So I'm gonna stick with solid wood, solid maple for the sides and back of the drawers. So why am I worried about wood movement? Well, there's gonna be a little wood movement, not enough to wreck the joint, but I think it could be visible. I don't know. The reason I'm paying attention to it now, I've done dovetails. I do like doing hand cut dovetails, and I've done them for a long time. And my dovetails have always been structurally sound, but they're not beautiful. They have a few flaws in them. So I figure if there's a little wood movement, no one's going to notice, right? But I've really upped my game with my dovetails recently. I mean, I'm really nailing them now. It's not some crazy amount of skill I've recently acquired. I've adopted a new method for dovetails, and I won't be coy about it. I mean, it's a method developed by a woodworker instructor named Rob Cosman up in Canada, and he teaches this method, and he sells a specialized tool that gets you here. And if you're interested in it, I highly recommend it. I saw it and I was sold, and I've adopted that method, and the results are amazing. I mean, you get these perfect dovetails if you just take a little care, but it's not like crazy difficult. It's just a highly repeatable method for really good dovetails. So I recommend it. I mean, if you're interested in that, look it up. Just Google Rob Cosman dovetails. He has a couple of videos, extensive, comprehensive demonstrations of how he does it and how you should do it, and highly recommend it. Really, really good stuff. So anyways, they're so perfect that I think even a microscopic amount of wood movement will cause some hairline gaps to appear. And you go through all this trouble to make these visually perfect dovetails that are a work of art in themselves. And then hairline cracks appear, it kind of ruins the effect. So maybe I'm being a little fussy, but you know, all this work, I want it to look really good in the end, and I want it to stay looking really good. So that's what I'm gonna do. The veneering I always do, I do a vacuum press, and I use, the glue I use is Unibond 800. It's a urea formaldehyde glue made exclusively for veneering. I stick with that. Some people, glue for veneering is really controversial. I know some people really tout for using PVA glues, like Type Bond yellow glue, you know, but I don't use that. PVA glues, conventional PVA glues come with some risks involved. I've had used them in the past, and I actually fell victim to the first risk, and that's something called veneer creep, where the nature of the glue, it doesn't keep hold. I've had the veneer pop free. I think there's some other factors involved in that, which I won't get into. I think if you press it properly, I think veneer pop is a pretty remote risk. I don't think it's likely to happen with PVA glues that often, but it is a risk. It could happen. The other risks are it can bleed through. Again, shop cut veneers, I don't think that's a problem. They're too thick, but with commercial veneers, this is a 1/48 of an inch thick. I mean, they're very thin. I think bleed through can be a problem. I mean, Type Bond has that awful brown color to it. It's going to discolor your veneer. Even if, you know, even if you use white glue, I mean, that's clear, dries clear, but still, it's going to bleed through. You know, like oil will darken wood, so will clear glue, right? And it's going to be blotchy. It's not going to be even. So, I mean, the risk is there. You could really wreck it, okay? The other problem is working time, all right? I mean, you know, 20 minutes tops is the working time you have. And I'm going to do all of these in one pressing. So that's, I did the math. It's 15 square feet of glue surface I have to apply. And you have to put it down perfectly even and really thin. You can't just slop it on like you can with some joinery. So 20 minutes is really not enough time to get it all on there and in the press. So I use a veneer glue. I use Unibond 800. I'm going to experiment with Unibond 1, which is a PVA glue made by the same people, but it's engineered for veneer. It eliminates those problems I just talked about. So I guess technically it falls into the category of a cold press veneer glue. Never used it before. I got a bottle. I'm going to give it a try. Not on this. I'm going to use what I know, Unibond 800 for this, but I'm going to experiment with the Unibond 1. It's a bit more convenient. You know, you don't have to mix it up. Anyways, so that's it. So quite a bit's been done. Door faces are finished, ready to go. Spalted maple veneer. Tiger maple surround, accent of walnut. Handles are done. I've made some handles. I didn't come up with this design myself. I got this idea off Fine Woodworking website. But the pyramid bevel is kind of reminiscent of arts and crafts. So it's all set to go. It's a brass inserts. Made a template to precisely position the holes on the handles and the door face. So these are ready to go. Now, when I made these, I made them slightly oversized, the hole. I do that on purpose because I like to dial in the fit with hand planes and a shooting board. The reason I do that is, you know, I find I make these drawers to a pretty tight tolerance, 1/64 of an inch on either side. And I'm trying to nail that with a table saw. I always find you overdo it a little bit, that's it, you ruin the drawer. So I come close, but and then dial it in by hand. But I also, because, you know, wood is funny stuff. It unexpected things. These drawer spaces, most of them, a couple of them are fine, but most of them are not perfectly square. It just happens. Now, they're darn close. I mean, you can't tell by looking at them. I mean, they're very close to square. And for most purposes in woodworking, they're well within any tolerance needed, okay? But for drawers are really persnickety because the tolerance is so tight. a 64th of an inch gap on either side. When the gap is so narrow, even if it's a little out of square, you don't get an even gap, you get a tapered gap. Now maybe I'm the only one who noticed it, but I notice it and it bugs the hell out of me. So I hand fit them for the space. And you know what's funny, it's because they're a little different. I mean, these are all the same height. This one just turned out to be like, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch shallower, not as high. I mean, I don't know how, it just happened. So that drawer is a little shorter. Again, who's gonna know? It's a 1/16 of an inch over 9 inches, so no one's gonna notice. But speaking of the wood doing weird things, this cabinet, the actual sides of the cabinet form the side restraints for the drawer that keep the drawer on track. Normally, when I build cabinets, the actual side of the cabinet isn't flush to the inside, and I'll just add after the drawer is finished, I'll add a piece of wood to act as a side restraint, and I can position that piece of wood perfectly for the drawer in the cabinet, and everything's fine. But because this has the sides being side restraints, what happened is this angle here in the drawer space in the cabinet is not perfectly square. Now it's darn close. This rear corner, this back here is about 2 millimeters further right than this. So really minuscule. And again, nothing that would be a worry in most applications. But again, when you're talking about drawers, these tiny little things make a difference. So what happens is, if I built these are the drawer bottoms. And they've been cut oversized right now. They're the exact dimensions of the actual drawer itself. The external dimensions of the drawer. And I did that way. Did that so I could test the fit. When they actually go in the drawer, they'll be trimmed down to size precisely. But when I slide this in, you can see, okay, so the front left is flush. Right here, an octave. So that's flush right there. But you can see this corner now is butted up against the side of the cabinet, which forces this edge right here out. It's not perfectly flush with and if I push it flush, now this is not flush. It's inside. This hard to spot with a drawer bottom, but if you finish drawer, it's going to be really obvious and it's going to look terrible. This isn't a big worry. This is an easy fix. These drawer bottoms, I don't make them perfectly square. I taper this edge. Not much. Maybe take 3 millimeters off the end there, and we just taper right up to this corner to allow me the space I need. And then when I pound the drawer together, the drawer bottom will be precisely fit to the dados on the drawer, so that when I pound the drawer together, the drawer bottom will force the drawer into the proper geometry. That force is a heck of a word. It's not really, it's just, it'll impart the geometry of the drawer bottom onto the drawer. On top of that, I will round the rear corners of the drawer and actually taper them just a smidge too. And the idea is, this is perfectly flat right now, but in a few years, sitting in various environments, the wood here could move a little bit or swell or curve a bit, curl a bit, and impart somewhere in here maybe an edge. Something that the drawer corner can catch on as it's being pushed in, but not if it's tapered. If it's tapered, it'll glide right over anything that might happen. So it's the drawers are done. They came out really nice. I'm really happy with them. The dovetails are really nice. They came out really good. Yes, I did just completely skip over the process of making the dovetails. The reason is, as I've mentioned earlier, I have adopted a method that was developed by and is taught by a woodworker instructor named Rob Cosman. And he has a couple of videos on YouTube that are far better than anything I could produce. He's an accomplished instructor. His videos are comprehensive and clear and well produced. So if you're curious, I recommend you just Google Rob Cosman dovetails and watch those videos. Word of warning, if you want to try this hand cut dovetails, just if you're into it, great. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it, but just be warned, it's very time consuming. I mean, there's over 100 dovetails in this piece. It took a long time. But I enjoyed cutting dovetails, so it was all fun. It came out really nice. I used contrasting wood on the sides. This is something that Rob Cosman does, although he takes it to an extreme. He'll do like a drawer face of mahogany or walnut and do drawer sides of holly, which is really, really white. And it's a striking look. It's gorgeous, no question about it. But oh my God, holly's expensive. I wasn't going to go that far. Holly's really expensive stuff. I mean, I could have gotten the same look with maple and used walnut for the sides and gotten a super high contrast, but I wasn't even going to. Walnut's a lot less than holly, and it's still awfully expensive, so I wasn't going to do that. So I found a good deal on some cherry, and so the contrast is there. It's not as extreme as the others would be, but it can only get better. I mean, maple pretty stable in color. The cherry will darken over time. Now, I don't know. If it darkens, it's going to take years to darken because it's shielded from UV in this thing. So if it darkens, it's going to take a long time. But the point is, it can only get better. The contrast can only improve. So, I mean, sometimes you make pieces, and because of the way wood changes in color, it looks great when you make it, and 10 years later, it's really pedestrian looking. No risk of that here. This can only improve. One thing I do with drawers, I always make the sides and backs a little shorter than the front to alleviate the risk of any drawers sticking sometime in the future. But I used to just make them shorter, and then I'd be faced with a really fussy half-blind dovetail to cut right here that leaves a piece of wood in place, and it's really hard to do without chipping that piece of wood out and everything. It was really a pain. Until I saw a video of a guy who was restoring an old antique tool chest, and he had a solution. The solution on that chest for the drawers was so simple. I mean, I can't believe I didn't think of this. I mean, it's so stupid simple. You just make the drawer the same height, and then you take a little off on the routing table, 1/8 of an inch. And then you get your gap you need, and you're not faced with a really difficult dovetail fabrication there. And you're able to leave a little bit on the back corners. This allows you to, first of all, it's really easy to tune that for hand plane. Take it down a little bit to retain a good performance. And because the drawer doesn't sag a lot when it's all the way out, because there's no gap there to close up on you. So overall, a really nice solution. I like that a lot. So have to do the drawer stops. Of course, there's drawer stops in the back that stop the drawers flush with the face, but I have to do drawer stops on the front to prevent the drawers from accidentally coming all the way out and crashing down and spilling your contents all over the floor. So all you do is you do a strip of wood here, maybe 1/4 inch thick, 3/4 inch wide, that when it's turned like this, the drawer butts up against it and stops. But you turn it now, you screw it in with like a nylon washer. So just turn it 90 degrees. When you turn it 90 degrees, there's a rebate cut in the back of the drawer that'll allow it to pass through, so then you can take the drawer out. Pretty simple solution. The drawers have all been fit very precisely by using shims as needed, and the drawer slides, and the drawer runners, I guess you'd call them. And the shims are custom for each drawer. I mean, some are thinner than others, some are thinner than some. You know, they're different. They're all quite thin, but some are really thin. And just to achieve the correct balance of the gap between the top and bottom. Now, usually when I do drawers like this, I put a strip of high density, low friction plastic It comes in a roll of adhesive on the back. You just stick it in there, and the drawers slide really nicely on it. But if I used that in this case, it would have raised some of the drawers too much right out of the get-go, and I would not have been able to tune them as carefully. Some of them I wouldn't have been able to tune at all. This one would have been raised too high, and I wouldn't have been able to achieve a balance. So I forego the tape this time. Now it's just running on the wood. It's maple, it takes a good finish, so it's smooth enough. Done the accents on the side. These are just like arts and crafts style eye candy. They just look kind of nice. I've still got to put 2 in the back. I haven't done that yet. Besides just a nice little flourish, it adds balance to this. It balances out this flared foot, giving balance to the piece. Top, I've glued up the wood for the top, but it still needs a bunch of work. I won't show it to you. It's still in clamps, so it weighs a ton. And the last thing that I'll be doing after the top is done and attached is I'll be putting the back panels on the piece. You can see right through the piece now because they're not there. I leave them off to give me easy access to the pieces. I'm building it all throughout. But I'll attach it. I'll cut a rabbet in the supporting boards back there. There'll be 3 panels, and they'll drop into that rabbet, and they'll be finished with finishing nail and glue, wood glue, and to add an extra measure of rigidity to the casework. And that'll be it. Then I'll be moving on to the finishing. Oh, forgot the drawer pulls. I really like the way these came out. I think I mentioned them previously in the video, but I looked at metal, conventional arts and craft cabinet pulls, high quality ones. I'm not going to put cheap hardware on this. And the high quality ones are expensive, like $30 each to start. And there's 10 pulls in this thing, so that would have been a chunk of change. So I looked for an alternative, and I found this design in Fine Woodworking magazine, and I really like this pyramid type, this emerald cut. I guess you could call it faceted face. Is kind of reminiscent of arts and crafts style. So I'm pretty happy with it. And truth be told, I went that route because of the cost factor, but in the final equation, I think it looks a lot better than it would have looked with metal poles. I think it's really quite striking. So I'm pretty pleased with that. So it's done. It's actually all but done. There's one thing left to do, which I'll talk about in a moment. The finish is Osmopolix oil. It's my go-to finish. And I'll give you some tips about Osmo, and I guess any hard wax oil for that matter. Because I see some people online applying it certain ways, and including really skilled, knowledgeable woodworkers, and they still do this. I see them applying it. They'll take Osmo and they'll pour it on, and then they spread it all around and they wipe it off. It's basically it's a wipe on, wipe off finish, which one of the attractiveness of it is a very easy, foolproof finish to apply. But pouring it on like that is just a tremendous waste, and the finish is kind of expensive, so it doesn't make any sense. Hard wax oils soak into the wood, but not a lot. It's not like mineral oil, which soaks into wood like it's a sponge. They soak in just a little bit of the surface. So if you pour a big glop on and wipe it off, you're wiping off 95% of what you poured on. It's a terrible waste, and it makes for more work cleaning it off. So what I do is I apply it with one of these. It's just a sponge brush. So I can put it on much less, with thinner coats, and not waste it. And because it's such a thin coat, it tends to get tacky really fast. So typically you pour it on and you spread it around, you let it sit for 15-20 minutes, then you wipe it off. But when you put it on really thin like that, and it doesn't soak in, you don't see it like disappear, it's still there. But it's a thin coat, it gets tacky really quick, so I don't wait 15-20 minutes. Otherwise, it's a lot of work getting it off. I'll just a few minutes, I'll let it sit, and then I'll I'll take it off. And 2 or 3 coats and it comes out fine. It's beautiful satin finish. The other thing of hard wax oils is I sand the wood to really high grit. I go to 600. If you're putting on a film finish like polyurethane or varnish or shellac or something, sanding beyond 220 is a total waste of time. But with hard wax oils, it's different. You sand to like a really high grit, 600. At that point, you're polishing the wood, and it makes a difference. It makes this beautiful satiny finish. I picked up the idea. I watched several articles on it, and I watched a guy did a video where he tested the idea. He did test pieces using sanding to a variety of finishes, all the way from 220 up to 1200. And what he determined was 600 seemed to be the limit. You go as high as 600, you see an improvement with every grit. But beyond 600, you don't see any change. The difference between 600 and 1200 is like non-existent. So 600, I go to 600. I get really good results with it. I'm really happy with it. So that's what I recommend you try. I'm also going to put, what I haven't done yet, the last remaining thing is a ceramic top coat, which I haven't done yet because you got to let the osmo cure for a couple of weeks before you apply it. I'm not going to film it. I'm going to call the video quits here. Good, but I'll just say about the top coat. I recommend them for surfaces like this, high wear surfaces. But you got to take them with a grain of salt. You got to know what you're going to get. You can't believe all the hype. The one I use is this. I use Carbon Method. There's a couple of different brands. That's the one I like. When you get these, they come in these tiny little bottles, and you think, "Oh my God, that's so expensive." But you put it on really minuscule amounts. That's like 150 square feet of wood. So. Lasts a while. It's not as expensive as it looks. But the claims they make about it are, one, it increases abrasion resistance and it increases hydrophobic resistance. Now, abrasion resistance, yes, I'm sure it does, but don't expect too much from that. You drag a ceramic coffee mug across the top, it's going to scratch it. I don't care, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not that good. But its hydrophobic resistance is profound. I mean, anything just beads up and comes right off. And I tested it with a bunch of different things that would stain wood. Right? I tested it with red wine, soy sauce, even India ink. Just beads up and falls right off. Never gets a grip. I even did a Sharpie permanent marker. Doesn't bead up, of course, but it. Wipe it with a wet rag, comes right off. It's amazing. Now, I tested it on oak, which is pretty open grain. So some of that ink got into the pores, and I couldn't get that out. So there was a slight ghost line remaining. But if you did it on a closed grain wood like maple or cherry, I didn't test it, but I'd be willing to bet that it would come right off. You wouldn't see a trace. So the hydrophobic resistance is extreme. And so, if that's important to you, I recommend it. It does add a little extra visual pop to the wood too, but not a huge amount. It's mainly for the hydrophobic resistance. So, that's it. Thank you for watching.